Welcome to the first lesson in guitar for dummies. So, want to welcome you. Glad that you're with me. Glad you're willing to join. Hope that you've seen maybe my music for dummies video. If not, this will be referring to it, and they certainly are going to complement each other. Hope that I can help you on your guitar journey somehow, some way, at least a little bit. And again, encouraging you to look at that music, the other slide. Once in a while, we'll jump back and forth. They are so tightly integrated as you grow. The music knowledge helps you with the guitar. Exploring the guitar helps you want to discover things in music. So you'll see they go hand in hand. So that material, again, is as important as the guitar skills themselves many times. And remember, you get what you pay for. I'm not trained in any way, but I enjoy my instrument, and I hope I can help you enjoy yours. So one thing in that journey, as we begin, don't quit. That's the first thing is sometimes you get a poor instrument, you're not getting it tuned right, whatever it might be. You can't learn the big, complicated piece of music that you first wanted to learn, and it can take decades to learn, but enjoy it. Don't quit. So as long as you're enjoying it and you don't quit and getting something out of your instrument and life, it's success. So as you're starting with guitar, I've not really seen anybody take this angle. I went way back because I grew up fairly poor and didn't really have a guitar. And the one that I did have access to, like I said, was almost cardboardy, terrible sound, and back then didn't have the resources necessarily know how to tune it. If it wasn't in the Encyclopedia Britannica, you weren't going to find it. There wasn't an internet there. So type of guitar, if you're beginning, is one of the first things you'll need to think about, won't you? If you get it free from a buddy, you might not have a choice. But if you've got a choice, really they're called acoustic and electric, aren't they? And most likely you're familiar with that, but the electric is more like the one here on the right. We see over here kind of just almost plasticky a lot of times, or some kind of material there that's not like a wood. And really, if you just hit the strings there, it's not going to make much noise, really, is it? You need amps and electronics to get sound out of that. There's what's called pickups in there that pick that up and amplify it. Then when it comes to electric, something to think about is it can be very loud. If you're going to be jamming on an amp, cranking it up, you might drive the neighbors out. If you're buying this for your kid, you might consider that. If they so choose, they can crank it way up there. But the truth is, they can also be very soft with it. If they can go in their bedroom, unplug, practice fingering if they so want. There's probably ways to rig up a headset and things too, but it's the possibility of loudness is there, but also of softness, or at least not as loud. So again, important to know though that it is easier fingering. It seems in the electric guitar, sometimes it seems the frets are a little closer together, so sometimes you don't have to stretch the fingers as far. But also, not only that, since it's electric, it doesn't need as heavy of a string. Very easy to push the fingers down for faster fingering, things of that. So something to consider is that. And if the youngin or whoever is wanting to be wailing rock and roll metallic type stuff, metal, well, that's going to be the choice. You'll probably want electric. But considering the acoustic, it's easy to take the guitar with you. You don't need an amp and all this stuff. It can make a very loud resonating sound without that. I think acoustic is very good for singers. Electric can be too, but with acoustic, a lot of times you can be focusing on your voice, or the instrument's not necessarily overriding it. Truth is, either one's going to help a singer, but I still pull my acoustic out more than my electric because I'm usually singing when I'm playing. And then another thing about an acoustic is you can get one of these pickups. We mentioned in here pickup. You can stick them in aftermarket. Like here's one that just kind of sticks in the hole, and not the fanciest thing, but it does work if you want to do that later. And then there's kind of a mix or a hybrid, isn't there? There's an acoustic electric guitar, which it looks like this. And for all we know, that one is. I do not believe so, but sometimes up here on the edge of the guitar will be electronics, and there will be where the strap goes, the plug-in. So need to think about, do you want the acoustic or the electric? And if you're not sure, and you really think about everything, and flip a coin at the end, because you're going to enjoy and grow. And if you stick with it, you're probably just going to want the other one eventually anyway. You'll probably end up getting the other one if you stick with it and have success. So another thing to consider is the quality of the guitar if you're going to go get one. And some things one that'll stay in tune. You know, what's tough is when you don't know how to play a guitar or how to tune a guitar, or maybe have no musical skills at all and you're just trying to get started. These are hard things to do as you're starting out. So I'm saying one that has a decent sound, and I'm starting to get into the price range. So what I'm going to talk about, I think, on this slide and the next is a few tips of how you, without knowing about the instrument, can, how are you going to have confidence in your choice? And we're going to give you some tips here. So we need to find a guitar that will stay in tune, or you're going to be frustrated as it keeps slipping out of tune, and puts out a decent sound. You don't want the one that's just a dead sound and no pleasant sound whatsoever. And you can pick up, for sure, used ones that 100 or less at pawn shops and things that will make a good sound. And it could be a fun journey going to pawn shops and trying to find a good deal with a buddy or something. And sometimes you might even have to string them if they're really bad shaped guitars as you're on your journey. That might be something you do later in life. If you learn to play, you might enjoy going around. I enjoy trying to find a good deal on a guitar that's cheap. And even some new ones, I'm going to throw this out, even some new guitars at a guitar shop for around $100 can put out a pretty good sound. They're usually not great, but good enough. You can find one at that price, $99, $110, $120, acoustic, that is good enough quality that you can stick with it. And they're usually, what I find is when I find one that I like, it's usually around $200 or so. So that gives you an idea of a new cost of a decent acoustic. Decent. Well, I'll leave it there. So here's how. You can't play, you can't tune. How in the world are you going to know? Have someone demo. Take somebody with you, take a buddy with you. I know I would love it if you're one of my pals or a new friend. I'd love to do it. A lot of guitar players and friends would love to help you out. But go and have somebody demo. Even a sales guy, have him play it and do some different things and say, I want to hear it. Your ear can hear good or bad. Might not be able to do it yet, but you can hear it. As he plays, does it sound good? Does it seem to stay in tune? You might hear what we call fret buzz, like these little things are called frets, and as you finger, they might pluck a string and hear kind of a zinging sound, and you can tell that it's kind of vibrating on there. Just listen for clarity. Have them play several to get a feel of what it sounds like. Another thing is the neck width. They're usually very similar on acoustics and others, but there can be variation. And so you might put your hand around it and see how it feels, even if you can't finger yet. You might see if it's wide and stretched, and put your fingers on different strings, even though you don't know chords yet, maybe, and see skinnier or wider neck, what feels better on your hand, things like that. Does it feel good? Feel good even putting it on your lap. You might feel it's like, oh, it feels like a tank, and others might feel a little smaller. You're like, wow, it feels good, even though you can't play yet. Tuning pegs, you might have, if you can't do it, the guy adjusts the pegs a little bit, especially if you're going to use the guitar. Sometimes even a new one will have some bad ones if quality control isn't good at the shop. But have them tune it and make sure the pegs aren't stripped there. You can't see them in that picture, but up here where the little knobs that you tune with, make sure they work. And you might look, this is things you might not consider first. Does it already have a strap button? And sometimes they'll be here behind, the neck, and on the butt of the guitar down here. Something to think about. If you want a strap, if it's not on there, you're either going to have to get it put on later, or you're going to have to be comfortable drilling a little bit, and it's not bad at all. Believe me, you can do it yourself, especially up here. The butt might be a little bit harder here. But something to think about. If you're wanting to use a strap, you might make sure it has the strap button up here and the one down here. If you're like me and like symmetry, it might annoy you. You might see the button kind of offset more towards the top, and that's actually a good thing and the right thing. So don't be worried if that button's not perfectly in the middle symmetric. There's a reason it kind of angles in when it does have the button there. And then another thing is the string, or the action, or the distance. And I'll try to show this a little bit here. Won't be the best, but like if I pull this up here, what we're mentioning here is, as you look at the guitar, even if you can't play, you might want to look here. You won't want to bash it like I'm bashing mine, but there's your strings as they're down towards the fretboard there. These ones, at least in the video, are looking very tight to the fretboard, but you want to make sure that the neck's not bent and those strings aren't like way up here. It's hard to give you a visual of that, but you know, that string, all of them might look like they're way off the fretboard like that. And sometimes that's from where maybe tight strings over the years have kind of caused a bend in the neck of the guitar. The metal or things in there might not be the best that's helping it keep the guitar straight, the neck. And so make sure those strings aren't too far off the frets. Now there are some people that like strings to be a little bit farther action, but probably you're going to be, most people like them a little bit tighter and closer to the fretboard. So that's something else to look for when you're looking at the guitar. So again, things you can do even without knowledge to help you pick a good one. So there, oops, I had a little image of, you know, measuring. That's what we were just looking at on that guitar, how far the strings are off the frets. You know, here's something else. I'm not a left-hander, but in my opinion, I have a buddy that's left-handed, and right off the bat, I ran into this. And, you know, if you're left-handed, I encourage you to try to play standard, and I put the word right-hand guitar. Another guy that is left-handed claims there is no such thing as right left-hand guitar. If you think about it, you normally, with your dominant hand, do the most dexterous things, don't you? Isn't it odd that on a guitar, I've always thought this, that, you know, your left hand is really where the more dexterous things are happening, and a lot of times you're mainly strumming or not as dexterous things required usually for the right hand. So I encourage you, if you're left-handed, just to get the style guitar that most guys use, because here's one of the reasons. You go to your buddy's house, he's got the other guitar you can't play. He comes to your house, wants to show you something, he can't play yours, and things of that nature. Might even save a buck. They probably charge you a few bucks more claiming it's left-handed, but I think you'll find as a left-handed guy, if you haven't learned yet, you're going to learn to do it, and it will feel fine. It will work great for you. So all your buddies going to have them, and probably cheaper and easier to find the standard guitar anyway. Okay, something else to think about as you're beginning is the position of that guitar. And again, I have no official training, but one of the first things you start doing as you're sitting there is you might put it on your right knee. And then you might find yourself, you drag it over to the left knee and things of that nature. And this can be a battle starting out. And I'm trying to remember, I think when I first started, I did use the right knee, it seems to me some. And it seems like part of that was because I didn't, had to watch my fingers more for what fret I'm on, things of that nature. And then I remember in particular I had a surgery on a shoulder, and I ended up moving it more this way to the left, and it helped me get out. And I found out some fingering was easier for me that way. So just things to think about that you can see. Here's one with a stool. I think if you go classical, teachers are going to teach you to go this way. But something I learned later is that, when you're standing with a strap and things, it ends up the guitar is more in the middle anyway. So what you might want to do, excuse me, is you might want to use the strap most times. It helps you keep it stable. it kind of helps keep it centered and kind of fights the right-left problem. It's pretty much in the center with the strap. So that's a tip to help you decide how you want to position your guitar. And again, how, if you aren't sitting, if you got a strap on, how low or how high up that is can really affect the angle of your wrist. So you want to, kind of play with that and see, is it easier to finger when it's here? Is it easier to finger up here? Some of these guys strapping it way down and there's so much bend in their wrist, it's awful. But you want to get where that's comfortable on your wrist as you get started. Another thing starting out is, do you use a pick or not use a pick? And I think a lot of times that's personal preference. A lot of times that depends on the style music you're doing. I played for years without the pick, and lately been using the pick a lot more on different styles. But you'll realize that without the pick, you usually have a little bit quieter sound. The doesn't ring out quite as well. But you really have all those fingers available to do different things. Now, if you use the pick, you get a ringy, a lot brighter. But fingering, you're kind of holding your pick there, so that can be a little more challenging. But again, different styles might require it and not. You'll want to play with that. You'll probably end up mainly playing one way or the other, and probably mix it up once in a while. There'll probably be a few songs or things you do, either with or without, but something to be considered. I probably have it here. I remembered there when I was looking at that picture, I like them with these little grips that, if you look, there's a texture on that pick there. I really like that. That helps my finger keep hold of that and not slipping. So you'll want to play with different pick sizes, thicknesses, and just figure out what feels best to you as you grow. Probably change over time. So for now, we'll let that be it. It's hard to know what to do again if you're truly a beginner, but hopefully you can find you a decent guitar at a low price, and one that stays in tune, and hopefully you'll stick with it. And hopefully I can show you a few basic things to get you started, and then we'll let the professionals take over from there.